1-800-257-1257.
This is CNN.
The Japanese parliament goes a step beyond debate.
And an unfriendly welcome in Cambodia for a politician who was in power during the bloody days of the killing fields. To our viewers in the United States and around the world, welcome to World Day. I'm Bobbie Battista at CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Reid Collins in Washington. There is word today that Israel wants to postpone the Middle East peace talks proposed to begin here in Washington a week from today. More now from CNN's Linda Scherzer, who joins us live on the line from Jerusalem. Linda.
Reid, Israel's inner cabinet this morning turned down the U.S. invitation to hold peace talks in Washington on December 4th, on that specific date. And in so doing has tried to gain control of a process that lately they have been rather frustrated with. Cabinet ministers met for 3 hours this morning. Later, they informed the United States that the Israelis have rejected the specific date for these talks, but Israel has not rejected the venue, namely Washington, nor do the Israelis want to drop out of the peace process. In fact, the Prime Minister asked that the date only be postponed for 5 days, from December 4th until the 9th, apparently to give Israel time to work out some outstanding issues with the United States, namely, what will these talks be focused on? The U.S. would like the parties to discuss substantive issues like territory. Israel wants the talks limited to procedural issues like venue and agenda. And Israel insists that only 2 sessions be held in Washington, then talks should be shifted to the Middle East. So in asking for the 5-day postponement, Israel wants to clarify certain issues, but also to let the U.S. know that decisions made in Washington will not be imposed on Israel, that Israel wants to maintain control, and before agreeing to anything, the Israelis want to know exactly what they're getting into. This is Linda Scherzer, CNN, reporting live from Jerusalem.
The White House has not yet commented on Israel's decision, and White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater says reaction will come from the State Department. We now join CNN World Affairs correspondent Ralph Begleiter, who was at the State Department. And Ralph, is this Israeli request for a postponement of the talks a significant glitch in the process?
Bobbie, I don't think U.S. officials at this point think it is a significant glitch in the process. The U.S. had hoped the Israelis and the Arab neighbors would be talking with one another already by now. That has not happened, so in that sense, the schedule of talks between the Arabs and Israelis has been postponed. And this also puts into some doubt the next stage of the peace talks, which would be the international or multilateral talks involving Europeans and others on Middle East issues that was to take place next month. It's still possible that all of that could happen, but it's not going the way the U.S. had hoped it would go. Still, U.S. officials, at least at this point, are saying the Israeli request for a postponement is not a major problem. One U.S. official told me it doesn't matter when they talk as long as they do talk. The important thing is to get the 2 sides back to the table and continue the momentum of the talks that was begun in Madrid.
As we heard from Linda Scherzer just a few moments ago, there are reports that Israel wants to limit the length of the talks and also wants to talk more procedure than territorial issues. Will this be a problem?
Well, I think the U.S. view is that the Arabs and the Israelis should sit down and decide whatever they want to do. I don't think the U.S. wants to establish any preconditions for these talks, doesn't want to say either that they will or will not deal with any particular issue. The U.S. view is get the 2 sides into the room, let them decide what they want to talk about and how long they want to talk, and take it from there.
All right, our thanks to CNN's Ralph Begleiter live at the State Department.
The Khmer Rouge leader, Khieu Samphan, had pretended to return to the capital of Cambodia, Phnom Penh, in peace. It was a place that had seen anything but peace during his time in power, a time when lives had been exterminated in mind-boggling numbers. And as Sue Downey reports, the people remembered.
Khieu Samphan arrived aboard a commercial flight from Bangkok just before 9 and was greeted behind closed doors by Vice Foreign Minister Sok An. Khieu Samphan commanded the resistance forces, which ousted the US-backed Lon Nol government, and was appointed head of state during the Khmer Rouge's 1975-79 rule, during which an estimated 1 million people died. It's more than 12 years since Khieu Samphan and colleagues fled to the capital, ahead of the advancing Vietnamese forces who overthrew the Khmer Rouge and established the present government. And he told reporters as he left the airport he was happy to be back and intended staying forever. As he was driven to the city, students chanted and waved placards, some with a black cross painted over his picture. The demonstration was organized and orderly, but the atmosphere changed dramatically when the Khmer Rouge leader arrived at the house where he was to stay. The small crowd quickly grew into an angry rock-throwing protest. I witnessed part of the demonstration. The crowd are now breaking up the police barricades, breaking them into short lengths of timber, and throwing them at the house. The crowd grew larger and more aggressive and eventually broke into the house. The demonstrators have now got inside the house and they're bringing out all the furniture. They're throwing clothing and bedding around, maps, throwing it all around the area. Chaos. Some food, clothing, the fence is being ripped apart. The demonstrators have now lit a fire, throwing everything onto the fire. Some demonstrators are walking around with parts of radios, parts of the fence, clothing, bedding, everything's now being put on the fire. Prime Minister Hun Sen came to the house and using a handheld microphone personally appealed to the crowds to disperse. But they remained, some still throwing stones at the building and shouting for Khieu Samphan to come out and explain to the people why so many of their relatives died under his rule. After being blockaded in the house for 5.5 hours, Khieu Samphan appeared with blood on his face and head and was bundled into one of 6 armoured personnel carriers. Khieu Samphan and the rest of the Khmer Rouge delegation were taken to the airport and flown back to Bangkok aboard a government airliner. Sue Downey for CNN in Phnom Penh.
After nearly a half-century of constitutional shackles, Japan is shedding its ban on sending troops overseas. But the change in policy, a historic one, didn't come without a real fight. A brawl broke out in Japanese parliament earlier today when some members tried to stop a special committee vote on Japan providing troops for UN peacekeeping units. The measure passed. Critics say Japan's post-war pacifist constitution does not permit its troops to fight overseas. Coming up on World Day, does the Soviet Union have a future, or is it headed for the scrap heap of history? Andrei Kozyrev, Foreign Minister of the Russian Republic, has discussed that and other crucial matters with President Bush, and we'll be talking to Mr. Kozyrev live right after this.
On CNN today, the accusation against William Kennedy Smith is date rape, but how difficult is it to prove? The story on NewsHour. Then talk show host comedian Joan Rivers visits Sonia Live, all today on CNN.
CompuServe is the world's largest network of people with personal computers. CompuServe can turn your computer into a limitless source of information and resources that will simplify your work and enrich your life. It combines the power of your computer with the convenience of your telephone to bring you hundreds of online services, like a reference library and international news wires. It helps you decide on investments, make airline reservations, and shop the electronic mall. It connects you with other computer owners and offers games against opponents around the country. Just call 1-800-522-4477 for more information or to join CompuServe. Just call this number today and get a membership kit for only $39.95 with usage charges as low as 10 cents a minute. CompuServe. You'll never stop finding new ways it can help you.
If all dogs were just puppies, all we'd make is puppy chow, with more nutrition than most adult dog foods for a healthy start. But dogs are different. That's why we make puppy chow, dog chow, fit and trim, and Purina High Pro. Pet tested, veterinarian recommended.
You can count on Sears for great Christmas values, like this original DP ergometer, just $199.99, reduced $100. It measures pulse, speed, time, and distance. America's best seller at our lowest price ever, only at Sears.
Well, President Bush yesterday met with Russia's Foreign Minister, Andrei Kozyrev, who brought a message to Mr. Bush from Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Mr. Yeltsin boosted his popularity tremendously in August, foiling a coup attempt by Soviet hardliners. The Russian president has been doing a bit of Western canvassing of his own lately. He just returned from Germany with promises of help, promises that he would like from the U.S. as well. Today in our Washington bureau, we have the Russian Foreign Minister, Andrei Kozyrev, with us. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning.
My first question to you today is that your counterpart for the entire Soviet Union, Mr. Shevardnadze, made a rather startling statement, one that he's made in the past before with some accuracy. But he said today that he was concerned about the possibility of another coup attempt by hardliners. And I'm curious, is that a legitimate concern and why?
Well, I think there is a ground for be on alert on this thing. And it is extremely important that the chance for democracy and the reforms which are proclaimed and in which we are engaged in Russian Federation succeed, because this will provide best guarantees against any coup d'etat or any popular uprising which could be led into a wrong way.
As you say, it would seem that the conditions remain ripe in the Soviet Union for such an action, as many of the republics are hesitating on signing the new Union Treaty. In fact, again yesterday, they failed to do so. The Russian Republic is in favor of this loose confederation. What will you have to do to sell this to the other republics?
I think the only way is to succeed in reforms, and a democratic Russia on its own feet. And that's why we need direct relationship with the United States, Germany, and other democratic countries. This will be an attractive partner for a new association of republic states in this part of the world. You cannot reconstruct the Union by force or by anything. There is a danger probably of the coup d'etat, but it won't solve any problem. It would just lead to bloodshed and to return of the Cold War and other things, but not solve problems of this part of the world. The problems should be solved only through reformist effort Yeltsin's government and his team is undertaking now.
What are the biggest obstacles? What do the republics object to most in the idea of a loose confederation?
Well, the major obstacles for reform is inheritance of this communist regime. And I think that the most important is to provide for reforms in Russian Federation, and that's what we are determined to do, I mean, Yeltsin's team. But the new union is important, but if reforms in Russia succeed, then there will be chance for a new confederation or whatever of states.
Isn't there some concern also among the republics, though, that Russia under Mr. Yeltsin has and will have too much control?
Too much control of what? Of its own destiny, and use it for the sake of reform and democracy in Russia. I don't think there is any ground to be concerned with. What we have to be concerned is the restoration of the old totalitarian and communist center. And if this is what Shevardnadze means by the new coup d'etat, then it's a real danger. But I don't think the republics have any ground to fear a strong, democratic, prosperous Russia, as countries in the world do not have ground to fear a strong, prosperous, democratic United States of America, for instance. It's better if you have big and prosperous partner for union, for association, for NATO, or for whatever. So I think that it is in the best interest of global stability, of European stability, and the prospects for reintegration in this part of the world.
You met with President Bush yesterday and brought with you a message from Mr. Yeltsin. What was that message? What did the two of you talk about?
Well, it just outlined the strategy I try to bring now to your attention, and it outlines what kind of reform, and this is very radical reform in a hard time we are undertaking, and we want United States to know what happens, and I'm very satisfied with the President's attitude and response, and with my conversations with Secretary Baker, Secretary Cheney, and Mr. Masbacher, and I think we have good prospects for close cooperation for these reforms to succeed.
You mentioned you met with Secretary of Defense Cheney, and the U.S. House of Representatives just approved a great deal of money to help dismantle nuclear weapons in the Soviet Union. How much concern is there within your country that these weapons could fall in the wrong hands?
Well, I think there is ground for concern, and it should prompt decisive effort, and I think it is very timely and very good that this appropriation passed the Senate floor, and we were in close contacts these days with key senators, and I expressed my gratitude for this effort, and I tried to encourage this move. I think it is important in material sense in dismantling these nuclear weapons, and also it is extremely important and significant symbolically. Political symbolism is in this gesture. That is, military allocations for Pentagon are going now to assist in destruction of nuclear weapons, and also in airlifts through military vehicles and aircraft of U.S. Army with this food and medical supplies this winter, which we badly need. So I think it gives very right signal in a very right moment that democratic Russia may count on its friends and I believe potential allies in democratic countries outside, especially in the United States.
Andrei Kozyrev, Russian Foreign Minister, we thank you very much for joining us this morning on World Day.
Thank you very much.
Reid.
A political tug-of-war in the Caribbean, the rope of desperation stretched taut. Neither side is ready to loosen its grip. We'll have that story and more ahead on World Day.
Sound quality is amazing.
It sounds so great.
No scratches at all.
That's when music was music.
It's got everything.
Ramblin' Man.
Benny and the Jets.
All on CD.
Introducing the perfect Christmas gift, the Rock Archive CD Collection, free with your paid gift subscription to Entertainment Weekly.
Everybody's doing a grand dance now.
These drum licks are just thundering in here.
Any rocker will love it. 30 of the most listened to hits from the 60s to today, remastered and compiled for the first time on 2 beautifully produced CDs or 3 audio cassettes. And now you can get this great Christmas gift, free.
What?
Do I have to pay taxes on it?
It's free with a gift subscription to Entertainment Weekly, the magazine that's perfect for anyone who loves music, books, videos, and movies.
Entertainment Weekly is the postmodern farmer's almanac.
It's a great magazine.
Entertainment Weekly is like a quick fix on what's out there.
It's concise, it keeps me current.
I love the picture. Get kind of the behind-the-scenes look.
It cut to the chase. I want to talk about music and movies.
I like it because I don't have to be hip.
If you know someone who loves entertainment, then Entertainment Weekly is the perfect holiday gift because it gives you the inside scoop on the events and people in the entertainment world. Call now and get 52 issues for 77 cents an issue, or use your credit card today.
Do you think that's really how people walk in Egypt?
Call now for this rockin' gift. Get Entertainment Weekly at over 60% off the cover price and get the Rock Archive CDs free.
Things like this don't happen to me. Stupendous. It's outrageous.
Totally awesome.
It's inexplicable. How could you beat that?
Wishing I was Rod Stewart waking up with Maggie May.
Call now, get a gift subscription to Entertainment Weekly at over 60% off the cover price and get the Rock Archive CD collection free.
In Bhopal, India, a court began hearings today on criminal charges in the 1984 poison gas disaster. A leak from the Union Carbide insecticide plant in Bhopal killed more than 3,800 people. Among those accused is Warren Anderson, the former chairman of U.S.-based Union Carbide Corporation. He is not in India. The court plans to label him, in its words, an absconder from justice. A UN peacekeeping force may soon be on the march to prevent further devastation in Yugoslavia. The destruction is already considerable, and the peacekeepers would have to step lightly. The way is blocked by bombed-out buildings, piles of rubble, and centuries of hatred. And despite a UN-sponsored truce, the bloodshed hasn't stopped. The area around Osijek is still under federal army attack. Nevertheless, Yugoslavia formally has asked the UN to begin peacekeeping operations. Donor nations meeting in Paris have agreed to make future aid to Kenya dependent on political reforms. Kenya gets as much as $2 billion worth of aid each year, but the international community has expressed dismay at Kenya's human rights record and refusal to adopt democratic reforms. So donors are suspending aid for at least 6 months.
Members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, are in Vienna today, where they're putting the finishing touches on their new production strategies. Yesterday, the OPEC ministers tentatively agreed to extend the cartel's current limits on oil production. This decision likely, it is seen, to keep crude prices steady in the coming months. In the United States, a federal prosecutor is indicating that U.S. drug agents are investigating some top Cuban officials. In the ongoing racketeering trial of Manuel Noriega in Miami, the former Medellin cartel leader, Carlos Later, has testified the Cuban government was involved in drug trafficking. He earlier had linked the former Panamanian dictator to the drug protection payoffs. A former White House aide is finding it difficult to win the hearts of some Cambridge University students. Why Oliver North's coming under some heavy fire when World Day continues.
Any angle, it feels as refreshing as it looks. A new shower massage from Teledyne Waterpick.
I was a dedicated beard wearer until my wife gave me the new Remington Microscreen Elite. It's quick, it's close. The Remington Microscreen Elite has 2 ultra-thin screens. So comfortable, shaves as close as a blade or your money back. That's Remington. Remington kicks off the Super Value Super Bowl sweepstakes. Win a free trip for 2 to the Super Bowl and get an NFL team cap free when you buy a Remington electric shaver. Enter the Remington Super Value Super Bowl sweepstakes.
Grandma's got a date. What's a date? That's when you hug someone.
Closeness. You might hesitate if you wore a diaper. So Johnson & Johnson created Serenity Guards, bladder-controlled protection so advanced it holds as much as something 5 times its size and stays dry, locking liquid in.
Grandma, are you gonna hug him? Hug me.
Oh. Give yourself hugs for discovering Serenity from Johnson & Johnson.
The Can We Talk girl herself faces the other side of the microphone and tells us what life was like before and after Edgar. Joan Rivers, today on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson says the United States should consider the use of military might to return the Haitian President Jean-Bertrand Aristide to power.
We did not build tents.
Jackson joined thousands of Haitians in a protest last night in Miami, where he said U.S. policy toward Haitian refugees is racist. The United States is setting up a camp for some 2,500 refugees at the U.S. Naval Base at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. It is to shelter those refugees now being held aboard U.S. Coast Guard ships. The Pentagon says overcrowding on those ships is becoming intolerable. CNN's military affairs correspondent Wolf Blitzer now is at Guantanamo Bay, where he joins us live on the line. Wolf?
Reid, we're told here by General George Walls, who is now in charge of this Pentagon Joint Task Force, that 135 medium-sized tents that can accommodate 20 people each will be up by tomorrow, by Friday. That 2,500 Haitians will be housed in this temporary camp at a place here in Guantanamo Bay called Camp Buckley. The operation has now received a name. It's called Operation Safe Harbor, and the operation looks like it's going to be going on for some time until the U.S. courts can decide whether the U.S. government has the right to return these Haitians back to Haiti. Almost every day, hundreds of Haitians are fleeing aboard makeshift rafts and boats, and U.S. Coast Guard ships have been going out picking them up. We just got off the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Le Guerre. There are 285 Haitians aboard the Le Guerre, and it's really a sad scene. seeing all these Haitians crowded on the front part of this cutter. We're about to go to another Coast Guard ship, the Dallas. There are another 239 Haitians, and they are about to be offloaded, taken by bus to some of these tents that have already gone up. This the commander of the ship tells us that the Haitians have been receiving 2 meals a day, 2 major meals a day at 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 p.m., mostly rice and pinto beans. They seem to be in pretty good spirits, though. There is no crisis here by any means. The Haitians that I've seen so far seem to be rather calm. In fact, at one point, as a few reporters were on the lagoon, they started singing. They have their own church services. It's a pretty intense scene, though, with a lot of young people and children, older people. Everyone seems to say the same thing. They do not want to go back to Haiti. They're afraid of the political climate there. Most of the Haitians with whom I just spoke say they want to come to the United States, and they're hoping eventually that the U.S. government will allow them to come to the United States. Reid?
Wolf, is there any guarantee that once word of safe harbor over at Guantanamo gets to Haiti, there won't be more direct boatloads coming there?
Well, the sense here is, Reid, that there are going to be a lot more people trying to flee. There's no doubt that the accommodations that are planned, at least for the time being, 2,500 accommodations for 2,500 Haitians, that's not going to be enough. In fact, already there are plenty of ships that simply will not be able to unload the Haitians aboard. And there's also a sense here, a wide prevailing sense, that as word does spread in Haiti, that the Coast Guard is helping these people get off these makeshift vessels. They are by no means seaworthy, and bringing them here to Guantanamo Bay, the U.S. Naval Station in Cuba, that more and more of these Haitians probably will try to flee what is described by the Haitians themselves here as an awful situation in Haiti.
Is there any indication from what you are able to glean from them what would make them more secure in Haiti? Is it economic conditions or the political condition with the overthrow of Aristide?
From what I'm told, it's a combination of both. They think the political situation is very, very bad. Several people have spoken very warmly of the ousted president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. They don't like the military government that is now ruling Haiti. There's also a major economic crisis unfolding in that country right now. So as long as those two factors continue to take hold, and it appears they will take hold at least for the time being, the Haitians will continue to undertake this major exodus, and the U.S. is going to be deeply involved. In fact, General Walls, the U.S. Marine Corps Brigadier General, who is in charge of Operation Safe Harbor, is making arrangements to stay here for some time to come. He says, in no uncertain terms, this is an open-ended assignment. He just arrived from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and he's making plans to undertake this humanitarian operation.
All right, thank you, Wolf Blitzer, live at what is Thanksgiving Eve in Guantanamo Bay. Bobbie.
In a moment, we'll have the day's top stories and the latest from New York on the day's financial news.
What video gifts are you buying? Singing in the Rain, just $19.98.
Dr. Zhivago, in the double cassette.
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
The deluxe edition, Gone with the Wind.
Bond. James Bond.
It's the James Bond collection in the gold package. Sean Connery, Roger Moore, just $19.98 each. Great videos, great gifts, great price.
If you buy dry dog food, there's something you should know. They're pretty much the same. Right, Jake? Most of them start with ground corn as the #1 ingredient, even a fancy brand like Science Diet. But Purina One Dog formula is different because it starts with chicken. Chicken, corn, wheat, and other wholesome ingredients provide high-quality nutrition and a naturally good taste dogs love. To me, Purina One is the only one.
Purina One, second to none.
World Day continues, followed by Day Watch after this local commercial break. Next on CNN.
Great legs.
Thank you.
How do you get them?
I used to do aerobics till I dropped. Then I found Thigh Master. Every single time you squeeze Thigh Master, you strengthen and tone right where you need it. So it's easy to squeeze your way to shapely hips and thighs.
I thought I'd never fit into these jeans again. Thank you, Thighmaster.
I recommend it and use it.
The secret to shapely thighs is exercising these muscles with just the right resistance. This balance resistance coil is designed to give you results quickly and comfortably. Want to tone your upper chest and arms? Thighmaster will give you excellent results. Thighmaster, we may not have been born with great legs, but now we can look like we were.
To order your Thighmaster, call 1-800-257-1257. Have your credit card ready or send check on money order for $19.95 plus $4.50 for shipping and handling to this address. No CODs, please. If you're not fully satisfied, return it in 30 days for your money back. Plus, if you call right now, we'll also send you Suzanne's Slender for Life plan absolutely free. Call now for quick delivery.
This is CNN.
Checking our top stories, the Mideast peace process has a problem. Israel doesn't want to attend new talks in Washington next week. Israeli cabinet ministers are meeting in Jerusalem to decide their nation's course, but they are expected to ask for a postponement. The Jordanians and Lebanese have said they will come to Washington, and the Palestinians have indicated they might. Syria, like Israel, is still a holdout. The Khmer Rouge killed Cambodians by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, when they ruled in the 1970s. Today, thousands of Cambodians sought revenge against Khmer Rouge leader Khieu Samphan. An angry mob attacked his villa in Phnom Penh today, and he has fled back to Thailand. Despite their bloody past, the Khmer Rouge are a part of the UN process trying to bring permanent peace to Cambodia.
Now let's go to Beverly Schuch in New York, and we'll get the latest on the financial scene. Beverly?
Thank you, Reid. Investors are selling on world markets today. On Wall Street, weak bonds and overseas stock markets weighing on the market here. A sell-off in market leader IBM after yesterday's run-up, also pressuring stocks. Right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 3 points at 2912. Volume just moderate, 39 million shares have traded hands so far. Decliners leading advancers by a 3-to-2 ratio. And on the broader and secondary markets, all four key indicators are lower. In London, the Financial Times 100 share index is down 18 points at 2452. And in Tokyo overnight, yesterday's rebound proved short-lived. The Nikkei average fell overnight, while down 138 points to close below 23,000. The U.S. Congress has passed a 6-month extension on some key tax breaks, including benefits for investment in low-income housing and employer-funded education. The president is expected to support the measures, and lawmakers in the House and Senate have agreed on a bank reform package. Their compromise will keep the Federal Deposit Insurance Fund from going broke, but it will not allow interstate banking, and it contains no new powers for banks to expand into the securities business. A jump in orders for defense goods boosted durable goods last month. Orders for durable items up 3%. Excluding defense goods, they were up less than 1%. And orders were down 4.2% in September. Fewer Americans filed new claims for unemployment benefits in the week ending November 16th. 413,000 people filed new claims. That's down 80,000 from the previous week. And finally, Americans made more and spent less in October. Personal income was up 0.2%, while spending was down 0.3%. The U.S. dollar is slightly higher today. It is up 0.2% against the British pound, up almost 0.5 penny against the German mark, and the dollar is little changed against the Japanese yen. The U.S. Treasury's 30-year bond down 12/32 in price right now. The yield is up to 7.96%. And that is the latest in business news. One final check of the Dow shows that it is down about 2.5 points. We'll be back in an hour with another update. I'm Beverly Schuch, reporting live from the New York Stock Exchange.
Living on the edge. Well, it isn't Wall Street, but it is a look at the future. Edge cities could become the new way of life. Perhaps they are. Coming soon to a city near you. The story's next on World Day.
More reliable than most, this umbrella. For it comes from our agents and 35,000 employees dedicated to customer service. Open in case you want insurance and investment expertise the traveler's way. You're better off under the umbrella.
Grandma's got a date. What's a date? That's when you hug someone.
Closeness. You might hesitate if you wore a diaper. So Johnson & Johnson created Serenity Guards, bladder control protection so advanced it holds as much as something 5 times its size. and stays dry, locking liquid in.
Grandma, are you gonna hug him? Hug me.
Give yourself hugs for discovering serenity from Johnson & Johnson.
Your perception of German luxury cars is about to do a 180. The car 3 of Germany's top automotive publications chose as best in this class was neither Mercedes nor BMW, but the all-new Audi 100. The all-new Audi 100. First, at last.
A lot of people have been staying up to watch the late news. These days, it's important to stay informed. If you're going to keep up with current events, impress your colleagues at the office, or engage in stimulating conversation. Fortunately, there's a network that lets you stay up on the news.
Any questions?
Without staying up. CNN Headline News, the latest news, business, and sports around the clock.
Hello, I'm Bob Kane. Coming up on Day Watch for our U.S. viewers, we will explore how the political season could affect the economy and vice versa. Action on Capitol Hill, for one thing, could create millions of new jobs. And the busiest travel day of the year is underway. By plane, train, car, and bus, holiday travelers are headed home to big feasts. That and more at the top of the hour on Day Watch. Reid?
Well, there is no place like home, but home, and for that matter, work and play, have left the traditional places, moving out of the confines of the central cities. Nestled nearly as close, it would seem, to Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains as to Washington, D.C., is Tyson's Corners, for example. The nation's capital seems but a speck on a far horizon, as thousands of people live, work, shop, and play in what a generation ago was simple farm and woodland. Now it is larger than downtown Miami. What is it? A shopping center, a mall? It is both and all of those things, but also another segment of civilization, an edge city. And how it came to be and what sort of cutting edge it represents is the subject of a book entitled Edge City. Joining us now is the author of Edge City, Joel Garreau, a senior writer for the Washington Post. Let me ask you, what is the criteria for an edge city? What does one have to be one?
Well, this is the biggest change in 100 years in how Americans and people worldwide are building cities. And what this is a place that has got more than 5 million square feet of office space, because this is the workplace of the information age, and that's a huge number. That's bigger than Memphis or Providence. And it's got 600,000 square feet of retail, which means it's not just an office park. This is a shopping area, too, just like an old downtown. It's an area that people head towards at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's not a suburb, it's its own urb. And it was nothing like a city as recently as 20 or 30 years ago. It was just cow pasture or a village. This is brand new.
Like Tyson's Corners.
There's 200 of these places nationwide in the United States, and they're growing up all around the world. You can see them outside of London, Paris, Jakarta, Bangkok. This is the new standard way that people are building cities in this world. It's as big, as wrenching a change for us as we enter the information age as it was for our grandparents when they started heading into industrial cities at the time of Dickens in the 1840s, for example.
All right. Now, you in your book state and cite and show us several cities. Let's take a look at the area of Manhattan. In one instance, you say that there was at one time a city in Manhattan, but it now is delineated with sort of a triangle, and your edge cities are moving out and about and around it. Here we see Newark and Trenton and Manhattan as cities.
Those are the old downtowns.
All right, and these are the new ones springing up.
Right.
And there are still more that are sort of wannabe edge cities.
There are 21 edge cities in the New York metropolitan area. It's the second largest concentration in the United States. There are 26 in Los Angeles. Now, each of these places is bigger than Richmond or Wilmington, and there is more office space, meaning white-collar jobs, in northern New Jersey alone than there is in all of Manhattan's downtown of Wall Street.
But do the people necessarily who inhabit it during the work period live there, or do they live elsewhere?
No, this is the biggest change in 100 years in how we build cities. We're now taking our jobs and moving them as close as physically possible to the homes of the middle class and the upper middle class. We're reintegrating our lives for the first time since this Industrial Revolution. This is the third wave of us moving our lives. First, we did our homes out there. That was suburbanization, especially after World War II. But then we got sick of going downtown to shop, so we moved the provisioning of all our worldly goods out to where we were living. And that's the malling of America, especially in the 60s and the 70s. And this is the third wave. Now we're moving our jobs and our means of creating wealth. The leap of faith that I'm making here in Edge City is that if you've got all the functions that a city has ever had for 8,000 years out there where you've been living and shopping and now working, that's a city, no matter how strange it may look.
What happens to the old cities? Do people go in to see Wanamaker's as a museum, or what happens here?
The conventional wisdom has always been that to the extent that we move our lives out to the edge, that the old downtowns would die. But you know, there's not much evidence of that. When you look at the 1980s, that was the best decade that the downtowns have had in this century. When you're thinking about America, you think that, you know, Detroit is hurting bad, and so is Manhattan. But those are really the only ones. Washington here has seen a great decade in the 80s. So has Boston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston. You can point to most of these places having tremendous revitalization. The only important thing is that these are not going to be the center of our world anymore. It's not where everybody's going to be going every day. It's going to be a specialized form of urban area. It's going to be the place where the museums are, where the arts are, good places for conventions, good places for tourists, good places to be young and single. The important thing, though, is to realize that there are 200 edge cities in this country, and there are only 35 downtowns of comparable size. So these edge cities are the new standard form of urban area in this country.
In your book, you mentioned that one of the primary requisites for an edge city to succeed is the safety atmosphere in it. Who governs? Who decides?
These places are more true to cities throughout history than a lot of people give them credit for. Babylon was governed for 2,000 years by a council of the gods, a council of the elders, and that's the way it works in a lot of these edge cities. They rarely match political boundaries. They rarely have mayors or city councils. What they do have is an establishment that is running these things.
Is there community? Is there a sense of citification, civilization?
I think this is where they're hurting right now. If this is the third wave of us changing our lives in terms of our urban spaces by moving our jobs out, my hope is that the fourth wave is what comes next. I think all new cities, when they're brand new, gives people the creeps. That's one of the reasons I call these edge cities. But it was that way for London in the 1840s. Dickens didn't know what to make of it. He thought it was so bizarre. He'd never seen an industrial city before. In Chicago in the 1880s, they said it was like a gold rush town. They thought it was nuts. I presume that our next phase is to bring civilization to our edge cities. And the big questions is, are they ever going to be good places to fall in love, to have a 4th of July parade, to be old, to be young?
To remember.
To remember. I think this is a work in progress. Now, the first step is to figure out what we've done. The next step is to get good at it.
Is there another frontier out there beyond this new frontier?
I think this is a once-in-a-generation or two-generation change. And you can see this going on worldwide. You see it around Paris, around London, around Bangkok. This is a pattern that is, I think, specific to the information age, and it's once-in-a-century kind of thing. If there is another version beyond this, it's going to have to involve an entirely different kind of technology.
Thank you. Edge City author Joel Garreau, thanks for exploring with us this new frontier of American civilization. And we'll continue in a minute.
Once upon a time, 3 bears decided to microwave their dinner. Papa Bear's portion overcooked. Oh, too hot. Mama Bear's portion undercooked. Brr, too cold. So Baby Bear used the micro-go-round, and his food turned out just right. The micro-go-round automatically rotates food to help it cook nice and even. No hot spots, no cold spots. The micro-go-round by Nordic Ware. It helps microwave cooking turn out just right.
Available at Kmart and Ace Hardware stores.
Few things are more precious than teeth. We fill them with silver, crown them with gold, and to fight plaque, we use Interplaque. Its gently rotating bristles remove nearly all the plaque that can cause gingivitis and other gum disease. No other toothbrush works quite like it. That's why Interplaque is the brand dental professionals recommend most. Interplaque from Bosch & Lomb, the perfect machine for your precious teeth.
If every dog in the world were the same, all we'd make is dog chow, with 43 essential nutrients and meat and bone meal for a taste dogs love. But dogs are different. That's why we make dog chow, puppy chow, fit and trim, and Purina High Pro. Pet tested, veterinarian recommended.
On CNN today, the accusation against William Kennedy Smith is date rape. But how difficult is it to prove? The story on NewsHour. Then talk show host comedian Joan Rivers visits Sonia Live. All today on CNN.
Steve Kosch joins us now with a look at the international weather scene.
Thank you, Bobbie. In South America, we'll begin our weather trek there. We find showers and thunderstorms that are spread from Peru down through Bolivia and into western Brazil. Also southern Brazil with a low-pressure trough picking up a few of those scattered showers as well. Move down to the south and you see a weather front that is moving northward through Argentina and also Chile. It is causing some light rain showers on either side of that weather front there. Let's now move to the Pacific Ocean, and we find a weather front moving through Japan right now. Some scattered light rain showers just to their north. Showers and thunderstorms in abundance in Indonesia area. Then, of course, we have a typhoon, and it's not just an ordinary typhoon. It is a super typhoon, Yuri. Winds now of 145 knots. It's approximately 100 miles just to the south of Guam, and it continues to strengthen slowly but surely. Don't think it'll strengthen too much more because it is beginning to reach its peak intensity, but it is the strongest typhoon so far of the season. It's a very large typhoon, as you can well imagine. Let's take a look at our next map. This will be Africa, and it shows that we have a few scattered showers and thunderstorms just off the Ivory Coast, and that stretches through south-central sections of Africa over towards Madagascar. We still have in the South Indian Ocean barely a tropical depression. That is number 4, as you see, 4S there. Now to Europe we go, and we look at conditions there. Stagnant high pressure. It's just like a lid on the atmosphere, keeping the air very stagnant through Central Europe. And as a result, widespread dense fog is found as well. Do find some mixing of the air. As a matter of fact, some raindrops falling out of the air around Sweden, and a low-pressure area moving out of the Atlantic Ocean, sweeping in some areas of rain around Iceland, and then moving towards the British Isles. Some of the conditions as at 12 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time are listed right there. Now some forecast for Thursday coming up. Enjoy your day, everyone. Back to you, Reid.
All right, the weather is covered, and let's find out what's new in the worldwide sports. Jim Huber has the latest. Jim?
Read the very latest. The highly touted United States women's soccer team moved today within one victory of the first World Championship in China. Karen Jennings with 3 goals in a 5-2 victory over Germany, completed just a little while ago, and so they will take on Norway in the finals on Saturday in Hong Kong. Norway defeated Sweden today 4-1 to advance to the final. Meanwhile, the United States men beat Tunisia today in 4 sets to remain undefeated in the World Cup volleyball tournament in Tokyo. They have roared through their 5 matches thus far. The U.S., Soviet Union, and Japan out of Group A. Cuba, Brazil, and South Korea in Group B all advanced to the final round starting on Friday. Cuba is also 5-0, the only other undefeated team. Only one game in the National Hockey League last night, but it was a good one. The Maple Leafs at the LA Forum near Hollywood, where Mel Gibson was sharing Wayne Gretzky's spotlight, filming Lethal Weapon 3. 1-1 game in the second. Kings on the power play. Gretzky there to tip home the shot, and it's 2-1 Los Angeles. Kings make it 3-1 later in the second. Tony Granato takes the rebound off the post and scores yet another power play. They were good on that last night. But here come the Leafs, tying it at 3 and then scoring on their own third period power play goal. Gary Lehman in front to Daniel Marois, 4-3 Toronto. But as time is running out, Kings come with the man advantage again. Rob Blake takes the shot. Luc Robitaille right there to deflect it home. 7 power play goals for the Kings in the last 3 games. And this one ends 4-4. Let's take a look at all the Tuesday scores now. finally, the women's movement took a shot to the kisser last night, but I guess without a movement, it could not have happened in the first place. There, midway through the major junior hockey game in Trois-Rivières, Quebec, between the Draveurs and Granby, on came Manon Rome, the first woman ever to play in a junior hockey game. 19 years old, she's a goaltender. The crowd on its feet chanting, Manon, Manon, Manon. But this is a fairy tale where the wolf wins. She gave up 3 goals, lost the game, and left after being struck in the face by a puck. Cut beneath the right eye, the force of the shot bent her mask. But hey, it's a start, right? That's a look at the international side of sports. More when we return next hour here on CNN. Bobbie?
All right, Jim, thanks. Still ahead on World Day, former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher still has her seat in Commons, and she still is fighting for her causes. One issue, though, has put her on a head-on crash course with her own protege.
But by turning our backs, Mr. Speaker...
Imagine being born with the ability to meet any challenge expertly. That's the wonder of the Maxim XI from Minolta. With the experience of professionals programmed right in, it responds to any change of speed, or light, or distance automatically for ultimate performance. The multi-talented Maxim XI, born experienced.
Only from the mind of Minolta.
CompuServe is the world's largest network of people with personal computers. CompuServe can turn your computer into a limitless source of information and resources that will simplify your work and enrich your life. It combines the power of your computer with the convenience of your telephone to bring you hundreds of online services, like a reference library and international news wires. It helps you decide on investments, make airline reservations, and shop the electronic mall. It connects you with other computer owners and offers games against opponents around the country. Just call 1-800-522-4477 for more information, or to join CompuServe. Just call this number today and get a membership kit for only $39.95 with usage charges as low as 10 cents a minute. CompuServe. You'll never stop finding new ways it can help you.
You can count on Sears for great Christmas values, like this Kenmore Snackster. Makes hot snacks in minutes, now at our lowest price ever, just $24.99. You save $8. Friday and Saturday only at Sears.
The Black & Decker Handy Chopper, the easiest way to make quick work of nuts, herbs, and onions. Always handy, cleans in a flash, making everyday meals a snap. The Handy Chopper from Black & Decker. Put us to work for you.
Under the leadership of Prime Minister John Major, Britain is edging closer and closer toward unity with Europe. But in Parliament, Mr. Major is facing stiff opposition, and it comes from the woman who did the most to support his career, Margaret Thatcher. CNN's Rob Reynolds reports.
Margaret Thatcher!
1 year after her fall from power, Margaret Thatcher is back in form, making life uncomfortable for her successor and former protege, John Major.
I think honourable members may be certain that I shall make my views clear if I'm given the opportunity to do so. It is not my custom to use coded messages.
Mrs. Thatcher's blunt message is a frontal assault on Major's policy on European unification, an issue that helped bring Thatcher down last year.
I believe that the majority of the British people do not want to hand over substantially more powers to the European community.
In 2 weeks, the leaders of the European community will meet in Maastricht, the Netherlands, to discuss treaties cementing European economic and political union. Major says Britain's future lies in a more closely integrated Europe.
We can play a role in developing Europe, or we can turn our backs on the community. But by turning our backs, Mr. Speaker, we would forfeit our right to influence what happens in the community, and that I am not prepared to do.
Major has indicated he'll sign a treaty establishing a common European currency and central bank later this decade, provided Britain can opt out of the arrangement later if it has a change of heart. But opt-out is a cop-out for Thatcher. She sees the proposal as a surrender of British sovereignty and the powers of Parliament.
And it is not only the Queen's head on our pound notes, important as that is. Parliament is the monarch, the Lords, and the Commons. And when you take away the responsibilities of that Parliament for the financial affairs of the nation. And that's what you'll be doing. You take away the right to issue your own currency, not only now, but for always, for always.
In the end, Thatcher voted to support Major, but called for a referendum on Europe after the Maastricht summit. When Major rejected that on constitutional grounds, Thatcher lashed back with the harshest rhetoric yet.
And the government that he proposes to do, and I don't know yet what it does, do so much injury to the Constitution by taking such a big chunk of it away, is not in a position to plead the Constitution. Parliamentary supremacy means the supremacy of the voice of the people. It is the voice of the people. If you deny that to be heard, I think it is arrogant and I think it is wrong.
After that broadside, Thatcher was off to receive an award from the government of Kuwait, leaving Major to endure the taunts of the opposition.
Doesn't the Prime Minister remember saying just a year ago on the steps of Downing Street that the Conservative Party is fully united for the future? Isn't that patently false when in the approach to the vital meeting at Maastricht, the Tory party is in a state of open warfare?
With an election due in spring, the breach over Europe's future has some Tories in a panic over their own. John Major's often been called gray and colorless in comparison to his formidable and flamboyant predecessor. He's spent much of the past year trying to prove that he's not Margaret Thatcher's man. And the most recent rounds of Britain's political prize fight would seem to show he's now anything but. Rob Reynolds, CNN, London.
And that is World Day. I'm Bobbie Battista at CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Reid Collins in Washington. Now Bob Kane can tell us what's coming up next on Day Watch.
Reid, a long day's night in the U.S. House of Representatives, and they're still at it. We'll have the latest. We'll also hear why politics may be good for the economy. Our guest, a Wall Street mover and shaker, former congressional mover and shaker, too. We'll also hear why some employers can legally cut off benefits for workers who develop catastrophic illnesses. Just ahead for our U.S. viewers on Day Watch.
Coming up, Day Watch, followed by Cryer and Company, after a word from your local cable system here on CNN.
Do you realize just how much difference there is in life insurance rates from one insurance company to the next?